I wanted to make a recommendation around our practice on practice number 6, releasing judgment. I've got my computer over here, that's why I was looking. Releasing judgment. The thing that I wanted to mention is that I can't say enough for this practice and how it supports our cleanse and detox. In a nutshell, the judgments that we make, especially, well, it's really all judgments, but I always like to start with ourselves. So we start with the judgments towards ourselves. And judgment, in a sense, is what we call splitting. It's when the brain is actually moving towards the stress response when our judging thoughts come up. We feel threatened. Our brain is going to be feeling threatened. Judgments feel like threats to the brain, and again, it's going to send us into what's called allostasis, the stress response. So as much as we can curtail our judging mind, recognize when it comes up, noticing that's probably part of the stress response, and practicing letting that go, and practicing developing a stronger, kind inner voice, holding ourselves without judgment, at least neutrally, and then ideally moving towards a more positive, compassionate, loving view of ourselves. That's a practice. We're all moving in that direction. But really important for our cleanse, because the more we judge ourselves, the more we are moving towards that split brain where our prefrontal cortex has split off from our emotional brain, and we're more apt to think in black and white terms, and we're more apt to think in all or nothing terms. And this black and white thinking, really, the science has shown that that is one of the things that's most highly correlated with food problems, weight problems, and kind of those kind of chronic health problems. So the more we can release the judgments, release our black and white thoughts, release our good, bad, right, wrong thoughts, move towards those shades of gray, move towards compassion, moving towards having that loving perspective, starting with ourselves. And this reminds me of our second part of our practice 6, which is forgiveness. Because if we're hanging on to resentments or disappointments or angers towards ourselves, and again, I always start with ourselves, because really what most of the science says is that we do have to start with ourselves when it comes to compassion and unconditional love and things like that. Because just like that old adage says, it's very difficult to feel it towards another in a very authentic, real, body-based feeling if we can't give it to ourselves. So we want to practice giving it to ourselves first. And what I'm going to recommend in the forgiveness practice is that you think about forgiving yourself, of course, forgiving yourself, just kind of a moment by moment, honoring yourself enough to forgive, all those past mistakes. And believe me, I know, because I've made so many mistakes myself. And all those moments of challenge, all those disappointments, we're just forgiving them all, letting them go. And what I'd like to recommend is that you also take some time to forgive your body. Forgive your body for any of its discomforts or any of its pain. Forgive your body for any way that it hasn't, it's resisted what you've suggested, it's done its own thing, or it's disappointed you in any way. Forgive your body, forgive your body parts, forgive all body parts that you've judged. Forgive body parts that you've numbed out or been numb from because you didn't want to go there. Either there was too much pain, or there's too much judgment, or something like that. Forgive any hurts that your body has led to for you. And just a very valuable practice, because as we learn to forgive ourselves, and as we learn to release judgments, and we learn to release the judgments of our body and our judgments of our cells, of course, forgive ourselves, forgive our body. As we begin to do that, it actually releases something. And what is released is, again, a tension or a stress response that actually opens up the possibility of healing. Because what the research is suggesting is that as long as we're holding judgments about ourselves and our body, and could be our body in general, our body, specific parts of our body. As long as we're holding judgments, we're much more likely to get stuck in a rigid response, or stuck in what's called a fixed action pattern, a habit or an addiction. And the more we can just begin to release and allow kind of a spaciousness and a permission and kind of a support of our own being, our own selves, our own bodies, and every single part of our body, we can allow, there's this wisdom in our cells, in our very cells, that that actually can start to generate its own information and energy and heal as we let go of those obstacles and the judgments and the lack of forgiveness, the resentments or the angers, disappointments that we hang to, that we cling to, create obstacles in the very cell's ability to heal itself. So we're just kind of giving ourselves a little bit more support here, a little bit more encouragement in a sense, in the deepest way. So I recommend practicing this kind of moment by moment, just noticing if your judging mind is starting to get activated, and it might be judgments about yourself, might be judgments about others, it almost doesn't matter, and then you practice letting go of that. Okay, best.